12-12 tao ang sugatan sa pagsabog ng fireworks display sa India. Alamin kung bakit sumabog ang display mula sa mga detalye ng balitang ibabahagi maya-maya. Magandang gabi, ako si Rikki, Alagao, Flores at ito ang Mata ng Agila International para naman sa mga headlines ngayong Miyerkules ng gabi. Bagyong Leon, isa ng super typhoon, Batanes nasa signal number 4 na ayon sa Pag-asa. Bilang ng nasawi sa Bagyong Kristine umakyat na sa 145. Hamas nagbigay ng ilang konsiderasyon para sa ceasefire deal sa Gaza. Alamin natin ang obserbasyon ng mga military analysts sa pinaplanong blockade ng China sa palibot ng Taiwan. At Shenzhou 19 crew mission launch ng China naging matagumpay. Mga astronauts ito nakarating na sa Tiangong Space Station. Isa ng super typhoon ang Bagyong Leon ayon sa monitoring ng Pag-asa. Ayon sa datos ng State Weather Bureau, namataan ang mata ng bagyo sa silangang bahagi ng Basco, Batanes bandang alas 4 ng hapon. Gumagalaw ito sa direksyong pahilagang kanluran sa bilis na 20 km per hour na may lakas na 185 km per hour at bugsong 230 km per hour. Nakataas ang signal number 4 sa Batanes. Signal number 3 naman sa eastern portion ng Babuyan Islands at northeastern portion ng mainland Cagayan. Signal number 2 sa natitirang bahagi ng Babuyan Islands, rest of mainland Cagayan, northern portion ng Isabela, Apayao, Kalinga, northern at eastern portion ng Abra, eastern portion ng Mountain Province at Ilocos Norte. At signal number 1 naman sa mga natitirang bahagi ng Isabela, sa Quirino, Nueva Vizcaya, rest of Mountain Province, Ifugao, Benguet, rest of Abra, Ilocos Sur, La Union, Pangasinan, Nueva Ecija, Aurora at northeastern portion ng Tarlac. Batay sa projection ng Pag-asa, inaasahan na makalalabas ng Philippine area ang Super Typhoon Leon bandang gabi bukas o Biyernes ng umaga. Inaasahan din ang paglandfall ng bagyo sa Taiwan bukas ng hapon. Samantalang umakyat na sa 145 katao ang nasawi dahil sa hagupit ng Bagyong Kristine sa Pilipinas, ayon po yan sa NDRRMC. Ayon sa ahensya, pumalo na sa 37 ang naiulat na nawawala habang nasa 115 na ang naiulat na nasaktan. Iniulat din ng NDRRMC na 111,177 na mga bahay na ang napinsala kung saan 104,740 sa mga ito ay partially damaged at 6,437 ang totally damaged. Samantala, pinag-utos ni Pangulong Ferdinand Marcos Jr. ang lahat ng mga kauulang ahensya ng gobyerno at lahat ng mga lokal na pamahalaan na paghandaan ng Super Typhoon Leon. Inaasahang dadaan si Super Typhoon Leon sa Batanes ngayong gabi hanggang bukas ng umaga, subalit hindi isinasantabi ng Pag-asa ang posibilidad na maglandfall ang bagyo.
The province of Laguna, Governor Ramil Hernandez, who has been working very hard over the past couple of days to try and do what we can for all of those victims of Kristine. Unfortunately, mukhang may padating na naman. Kaya't paghanda natin na mabuti.
Inanunsyo ng Manila Electric Company o Meralco na ibabalik nito ang nasa 16 na bilyong piso bilang refund sa mga consumer nito sa oras na maresolba na ang Energy Regulatory Commission ang ikalimang regulatory rate reset. Ayon kay Meralco Senior Vice President and Head of Regulatory Management Jose Ronald Valles, nakatutulong at isang malaking kaluwagan ang refund na ito lalo na sa mga customer ng Meralco kung maipapatupad na. Ang refund ay kumakatawan sa actual weighted average price at ang maximum average price, gayon din ang allowable costs na pwedeng isingil sa mga customer ng Meralco. Pero sa ngayon, sinasabing nag-lapse na ang 5th regulatory period. Sa tuwing lapse period, nagbabayad ang mga consumer ng singil na hindi na akma sa kasalukuyang halaga ng serbisyo habang hinihintay ang panibagong rate. Sa ibang balita, ipinahayag ng Taipei Economic and Cultural Office o TECO ang kanilang plano na magdala ng modernong teknolohiya para sa rice production ng Pilipinas. Ayon sa representante ng TECO na si Wallace Min Gan Chao, layunin ng proyektong ito na ipakita ang suporta ng Taiwan sa target ng Pilipinas para sa food security at affordability. Binigyan diin pa niya na nais nilang palakasin ang kakayahan ng bansa upang masigurong walang magugutom kahit nasa gitna pa ng kalamidad. Bukod dito, nagpadala ang TECO ng mahigit 500 metric tons ng bigas sa Pilipinas. Ang bigas na ito ay nakalaan para sa produksyon ng mas maraming food packs na ipamamahagi sa mga pamilyang apektado ng bagyo. Itatayo sa Pilipinas ang ikatlong pasilidad ng Center of Excellence on Women, Peace and Security. Ito ay matapos lagdaan ng mga kinatawan ng Pilipinas at ng Estados Unidos ang isang kasunduan para sa pagtatatag ng Center of Excellence on Women, Peace and Security sa Pilipinas. Nagpulong din ang mga delegado mula sa 84 na bansa para talakayin ang progreso ukol sa kapayapaan, seguridad at women empowerment. Iniutos ng Department of Migrant Workers sa mga Filipino seafarers sa mga cruise ships na magpatupad ng mas mahigpit na hakbang laban sa child porn at sexual crimes. Ito ay inanunsyo matapos tumaas ang bilang ng mga insidente ng pag-aresto at pagkakakulong sa mga Filipino seafarers sa Estados Unidos dahil po sa child porn. Pinaliwanag ni Migrant Workers Secretary na kasama ang pagpapalakas ng pre-departure orientation seminars na dapat ay may kasamang pagtaas ng awareness tungkol sa Anti-Online Sexual Abuse or Exploitation of Children, Anti-Child Sexual Abuse or Exploitation Materials Act. Hinimok din ng ahensya ang lahat ng Filipino seafarers na panatilihin ang ethical standards ng kanilang trabaho at umiwas sa mga sitwasyong maaaring humantong sa sexual crimes. Arestado ng pinagsanib na puwersa ng Philippine National Police o PNP, Anti-Cybercrime Group o PNP-ACG at Security Exchange Commission ang 69 na mga foreign nationals na sangkot sa crypto at love scam sa Maynila. Ayon sa impormasyon ng otoridad, modus ng mga sospek na akitin at paibigin ang kanilang mga biktima, pinagkakakitaan nila ito o pinakikitaan nila ito ng mga larawan at video para mapaniwala na sila ay totoo at hindi scammer. Ngunit pagkatapos nilang mapaibig ang kanilang mga biktima, ay mag-aalok na sila sa mga ito na mag-invest sa cryptocurrency.
Ang unang ginagawa po dito ay kinukuha po yung sympathy ng victim po nila, pinapa-inlove po nila hanggang sa nakukuha na po nila yung loob nung kausap nila, and then ini-encourage po nila ito na mag-invest sa cryptocurrency, and hanggang meron pong binibigay yung nabibiktima nila ay kinakausap nila. Kung wala na po silang makukuha, automatically binablock po nila ito sa web. Meron din po silang spills or script na binabasa po para po masabihan na magagandang bagay or magagandang salita doon sa mabibiktima nila, and hanggang po makukuha yung simpatya or loob ng magiging biktima nila, doon na po sila magsasabi na mag-invest po or ini-encourage nila mag-invest sa cryptocurrency para po daw sa future nila, para meron daw po silang magbibuild ng family. Ongoing pa yung investigation dun sa mismong lugar ng operation, and sa ngayon din po on-site nagsasagawa po ng digital forensic yung PNP-ACG, at may nakita din po tayong text blaster doon. Dito po natin makikita yung mga evidence na isinasagawa nilang scam po.
Nakikipag-ugnayan na ang PCG-ACG sa Bureau of Immigration upang i-verify ang mga identity ng mga naarestong foreign nationals. Plano na rin ang otoridad na sampahan ang may-ari ng scam hub. Sa Sa ibang balita, sinabi ni Senate Minority Leader Coco Pimentel na hindi niya nakikita na kailangang dumalo si dating Pangulong Rodrigo Duterte sa pagdinig ng Senado ukol sa issue ng war on drugs. Subalit kung nakikitaan niya ng ibang senador na kailangang dumalo ni Duterte, ay kailangan nila itong i-manifest. Nauna nang sinabi ng dating Pangulo na aakuin niya ng buo ang responsibilidad sa nangyaring drug war noong kanyang administrasyon. Samantala, binanggit ni Pimentel na pag-aaralan nila ang mga materyal nilang hawak para ma-verify ang mga sinabi ni Duterte sa nakaraang hearing. Kinumpirma rin ng senador na wala pang schedule para sa susunod na pagdinig, pero umaasa sila na dadalo sina retired police colonels Royina Garma at Edilberto Leonardo para sagutin ang mga revelasyon ni Duterte. Susunod, Australia palalakasin ang missile production matapos ang ICBM test ng China. Russia muling naglungsad ng pagsasanay gamit ang nuclear forces nito. At 73 katao patay sa isang airstrike ng Israel sa Gaza. Iba pang detalye ng mga balita sa pagbabalik po yan ng Mata ng Agila International.
This morning.
Nagbabalik ang mga balita, nag-issue ng land warning ang gobyerno ng Taiwan bilang paghahanda sa posibleng pananalasa ng Super Typhoon Kristine. Ayon sa State Weather Bureau, maglalandfall sa Taiwan ang bagyo ngayong Huwebes. Anila, taglay ng bagyong Kristine ang gusts of wind na 300 km per hour at patuloy pa rin itong lumalakas. Bilang paghahanda, sinabihan na ng mga otoridad ng mga mangingisda na huwag munang maglayag sa laot, pinapaiwasan din sa publiko na magpunta sa mga tabing dagat. Nagbabalak ang Australia na palakasin ang kakayahan nito sa missile defense matapos magpalipad ang China ng Intercontinental Ballistic Missile o ICBM sa South Pacific. Inanunsyo ng Canberra na palalakasin nila ang kanilang kakayahan sa long-range strikes ng missiles at makikipagtulungan sa mga kaalyado tulad ng Estados Unidos at Japan para sa stability ng rehiyon. Binigyan diin ni Australian Minister for Defense Industry Pat Conroy na ang rehiyon ay nasa bungad ng panibagong age of missiles kung saan ginagamit nito bilang panakot. Dagdag pa niya na makakarga ng SM-6 missiles sa kanilang mga Navy destroyer fleet bilang tugon sa ICBM test ng China. Samantala, pinag-iisipan naman ng South Korea ang posibleng pagpapadala ng isang team ng military monitors sa Ukraine upang obserbahan at maghandaan ang pagdestino ng sundalo ng North Korea sa frontline ng Russia-Ukraine war. Ayon sa Presidential Office, pag na-deploy ang mga sundalo ng Pyongyang sa frontlines ay makapupulot sila ng karanasan ng pagsabak sa tunay na digmaan, isang sapat na dahilan na ituring ito ng Seoul na banta sa kanilang bansa. Tinatansyang mayroong 11,000 sundalo ng North Korea ang kasalukuyang nag-iensayo sa Russia, kung saan 3,000 rito ay nakadestino na sa frontlines. Sabi naman ni South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol, ang dagsaan ng sundalo paloob ng Russia ang pinakamalaking soldier exchange na nakita nila sa mga nakaraang taon na potensyal namang maging mapanganib para sa katatagan ng rehiyon. Nagbabala na ang ibang mga opisyal ng South Korea na nagpadala ang Russia ng teknolohiyang pangmilitar at sibilyan bilang kapalit sa mga sundalo habang naglalayo ng Pyongyang na magpalipad ng isang spy satellite at palakasin ang kanilang intercontinental ballistic missile program. Naglungsad ang Russia ng pagsasanay ng kanilang nuclear forces na may kasamang missile launches bilang simulasyon ng isang retaliatory strike. Kasama sa pagsasanay ang buong nuclear triad ng Russia na binubuo ng ground, sea at air launch missiles. Isang Yars intercontinental ballistic missiles ang inilunsad mula sa Plesets Cosmodrome sa hilagang kanluran ng Russia papunta sa Kamchatka sa Far East. Nagpakawala rin ang Sineva at Bulava ballistic missiles mula sa isang submarine at cruise missiles mula sa strategic bomber planes. Layunin ng exercise na sanayin ng kanilang militar na magsagawa ng malawakang nuclear strike ng strategic offensive forces bilang tugon sa isang nuclear strike ng kanilang mga kalaban. Ipanilawanag ni Russian President Vladimir Putin na mahalaga ang pagkakaroon ng makabago at handang nuclear force lalo na sa tumitinding geopolitical tension. Nasa 73 katao na ang nasawi matapos ang ginawang airstrike ng Israel sa bayan ng Beit Lahia sa northern Gaza. Ayon sa Health Ministry ng Gaza, tinamaan ang 5 palapag na gusali kung saan naroroon ang karamihan ng mga biktima. Dagdag pa ng ahensya ay hindi bababa sa 20 kabataan ang kasali sa mga nasawi. Ikinabahala naman ng Estados Unidos ang mataas na numero ng kaswalidad kung saan tinawag ito ni State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller na isang horrifying incident with a horrifying result. Mula pa kasi noong 2 linggo ay patuloy na ang ginagawang operasyon ng Israel Defense Forces o IDF sa mga lugar ng Jubalia, Beit Lahia at Beit Hanun sa northern Gaza. Ayon naman sa Palestinian Civil Emergency Service ay nasa 100,000 katao na ang kasalukuyang stranded sa inataking rehiyon ng walang makain o tulong medikal na makuha kung kaya't hindi agad na ipagamot ang mga napinsala sa mga isinagawang pag-atake. Paliwanag ng Israel, ang kanilang ginagawang operasyon sa northern Gaza ay upang pigilan ang mga Hamas na mag-regroup matapos silang mabuwag ng IDF.
We are deeply concerned by the loss of civilian life in this incident. This was a horrifying incident with a horrifying result. I can't speak to the total death toll, but there are reports of 24 children killed in this incident. No doubt a number of them are children who have been fleeing the effects of this war for more than a year now. We have reached out to the government of Israel to ask what happened here. We don't yet know the underlying circumstances. We have not gotten a full explanation from them about what happened. But you step back and look at where we are in this campaign. We are a year into the government of Israel's military campaign in Gaza.
Samantala, minenliit lamang ng Israel ang pagtatalaga ng Hezbollah ng kanilang bagong leader. Matapos kasi na mapatay si Hassan Nasrallah sa isang airstrike noong nakaraang buwan, ay ipinalit nila si Naim Qassem. Sinabi naman ni Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant na pansamantala lamang ang pagkakatalaga kay Qassem at hindi naniniwala ito na hindi rin ito magtatagal at kanila ring masusukol. Sa isa pang post sa X ay sinabi rin ito na the countdown has begun, isang senyales na nagsisimula ng Israel na magplano ukol sa panibagong operasyon laban sa bagong halal na leader. Sinuportahan naman ng Israeli government ang pahayag ni Gallant kung saan sinabi nilang his tenure in his position may be the shortest in the history of this terrorist organization if he follows in the footsteps of his predecessors. Ilang beses nang tiniyak ng Israel na lahat ng kanilang gagawin para tuluyang mawala ang lahat lahat ng mga kuta ng Hezbollah at Hamas sa Middle East. 8 peacekeepers naman ang UNIFIL ang sugatan matapos tamaan ng rocket ang kanilang headquarters sa southern Lebanon. Ayon sa Federal Ministry of Defense ng Austria, ang mga sugatan ay galing sa kanilang sangay ng UNIFIL. Pinaliwanag nila na nagtamo lamang ng maliliit na sugat ng mga sundalo at sa kabutihang palad ay hindi naman nangangailangan ng agarang medikal na atensyon. Samantala, kinundena ng ahensya ang pag-atake at nag-udyok na imbestigahan agad ang insidente. Sa ngayon, hindi pa malinaw kung sino ang responsable para sa pag-atake o kung saan ito nagmula at wala pang umaako ng responsibilidad para sa insidente. Nanawagan na rin ang Defense Ministry ng Austria sa Israel at Hezbollah na tiyakin ang kaligtasan ng mga peacekeepers sa lugar. Inilatag naman ng Hamas ang ilang mga ikinukonsidera nilang mga proposals mula sa mediator na nagsusulong ng ceasefire. Ayon sa Hamas official na si Sami Abu Zuhri, na bukas ang grupo sa anumang proposal para sa tuluyang pagtigil ng kaguluhan sa Gaza. Hindi rin nila isinasara ang kanilang pintuan para sa anumang kasunduan na maaaring magtapos sa paghihirap ng mga Palestino na magdadala sa permanenteng tigil putukan. Sa kabila nito ay sinasabi ng delegasyon ng Qatar na sila'y patuloy na umaasa ngunit hindi sila kumpiyansang maaabot ng dalawang kampo ang ceasefire deal sa lalong madaling panahon.
Regarding how hopeful we are, I will say on this podium that I remain hopeful, not necessarily optimistic. So we can't lose hope. The situation is not easy. We haven't reached an agreement for a really long time, since November 2023. Right now we are working. As I said, there is a renewed interest, and we are working always and keeping channels of communication open.
Patuloy ang panghihikayat ng mga bansang US, Qatar at Egypt na siyang nagsisilbing mga mediators na dapat tumugon sa ceasefire ang Israel. Namamagitan rin ang Qatar sa ugnayan ng Iran, Estados Unidos at Israel na nagaganap ng hiwalay sa usapan ng Palestine at Israel. Ngunit sa ngayon ay kinukonsidera nilang pagsamahin ang dalawang pag-uusap upang mapahupa ang tensyon sa mas malawak na rehiyon at mas mainam na pamamaraan.
We have been involved in facilitating communication between Iran and the United States and Israel to de-escalate. And this channel of communication has remained open since then. And the talks are ongoing to keep that channel of communication open and to make sure that there is a relative de-escalation between both sides. We are hopeful that this last attack will be the last stretch.
Ayon sa Estados Unidos, kulang ang aksyon ng Israel kung ikukumpara sa sinasabi nitong pagtulong sa mga Palestinians. Ayon sa US, kontra ito sa anumang mga gawa ng Israel na kauuwi sa pagkagutom ng mga Palestino sa Jabalia o kahit saan paman. Narito ang report ni Bernhard Gonzaga.
Noong Martes, sinabi ni U.S. Ambassador kay United Nations Linda Thomas-Greenfield na tinatanggihan ng Estados Unidos ang anyay anumang aksyon ng Israeli forces na gutumin ang Palestinians. Ani Thomas-Greenfield, dapat tapatan ng aksyon ang mga salita ng Israel.
At the same time, the United States has made clear to Prime Minister Netanyahu that 1 year into this conflict, Israel must address the catastrophic humanitarian crisis in Gaza, that the United States rejects any Israeli efforts to starve Palestinians in Jabalia or anywhere else, and that Israel's words must be matched by action on the ground.
Sa isang liham ng US sa Israel noong 13 ng Oktubre, sinabi nitong kailangan gumawa ng hakbang ang Israel sa loob ng 30 araw upang pabutihin ang humanitarian situation sa Gaza. Kung hindi, haharap niya ang Israel sa katampatang paghihigpit sa US military aid. Naglunsad ang Israel ng malawakang opensibang militar sa Gaza nang magsimula ang buwan ng Oktubre. At sinabi ni Thomas Greenfield noong 16 ng buwan na nakamanman ng Washington upang tiyakin na hindi umaayon ang ground operation ng Israel sa gawaing panggugutom sa Ilagang Gaza. Samantala, noong 28 ng Oktubre, sinabi naman ng Palestinian Civil Emergency Service na may 100,000 mga taong naipit sa Baya, Beit Lahia at Beit Hanun na walang supply ng pagkain o gamot. Ayon kay Palestinian UN envoy na si Riyad Mansour, linggo-linggo siyang umaasa na makapaghatid ng magandang balita sa mga taga-Palestine na may tulong ng parating. Subalit, bigo siya sa pag-asang ito.
I sat in the Security Council week after week, stood before the General Assembly week after week, hoping to be able to tell my people that help is on the way. They endured horrors that you watch on your TV screens and yet can barely comprehend, but their tormentors continue to be shielded and Palestinian victims continue to be abandoned.
Sa isang matalim na pahayag, sinabi ni UN Ambassador Danny Dano ng Israel na kailangan tanggapin na ng mundo na hindi na masasagip ang Gaza.
This council, the international community, and the entire UN must accept the reality that UNRWA Gaza is beyond redemption, beyond saving, beyond reform. We must turn a new page now.
Sa kaugnay na balita, sinabi din ng Estados Unidos na lubahay itong nababahala sa mga buhay na nasawi dahil sa pag-atake ng Israel sa isang residential building sa hilagang Gaza. Tinawag ni State Department spokesperson Mathay ang pag-atake ito na karumal-dumal na insidente na nauwi sa karumal-dumal na resulta.
We are deeply concerned by the loss of civilian life in this incident. This was a horrifying incident with a horrifying result. I can't speak to the total death toll, but there are reports of 24 children killed in this incident. No doubt, a number of them are children who have been fleeing the effects of this war for more than a year now.
Ayon sa Gaza Health Ministry, may 73 Palestinians ang namatay at nawawala, at 12 na ang nasaktan sa pag-ataking ito ng Israel. Sinabi ni Miller na umugnay na ang mga opisyal ng US sa Israel upang husisain ang mga pangyayari. Bernhard Gonzaga, para sa Mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Noong Martes, inanunsyo ng US State Department ang pagkondena nito sa pag-atake ng Sudan-based Rapid Support Forces o RSF sa mga sibilyan. Nanawagan ito sa agarang pagtigil ng karahasan. Nagbabala si State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller na patuloy na magpapataw ng parusa ang Estados Unidos sa mga nagpapalala ng karahasan sa Sudan. Dinetalye ni Miller ang ginawaan niyang karumal-dumal na pag-atake ng RSF sa mga sibilyan. Anya, karamihan sa mga ito ay kababaihan at kabataan. Ani Miller, dapat tigilan na ang karahasang ito sa lalong madaling panahon.
Over the last week, the Sudanese Rapid Support Forces has carried out a major and brutal attack across eastern part of the Al Jazeera state in Sudan, located just to the south of Khartoum. They attacked multiple villages in the area, deliberately targeting civilians. Many of the RSF's victims have been children and women. The United States condemns these attacks in the strongest terms and calls on the RSF to halt violence against civilians immediately.
Dagdag ni Miller, pinalalala ng mga ganitong pag-atake ang pagkagutom at ang krisis ng paglikas kung saan milyon-milyong mga Sudanese ang nahulog sa pangangailangan ng agarang humanitarian relief.
These heinous attacks are sadly only the latest in a war that has gone on for far too long. Attacks like these exacerbate the severe hunger and displacement crisis that has put more than 25 million Sudanese in need of emergency humanitarian relief and forced more than 14 million people to flee their homes since the conflict began.
Binigyang diin ni Miller na hindi matatawaran ang suporta ng US sa Sudan.
Our support for the Sudanese people is steadfast as they demand a sustainable end to the conflict and work to develop a process to resume the stalled political transition to inclusive, civilian-led democratic governance.
Sumabog ang giyera sa Sudan noong Abril na nakaraang taon dahil sa agawan ng kapangyarihan sa pagitan ng Sudanese Army at ng paramilitary na RSF. Ito ay bago ang transisyon sa pamumunong sibilyan. Minitsahan nito ang pinakamalaking displacement crisis sa buong mundo. Nagtala po ng bagong record ang bilang ng early voters para sa presidential elections sa swing state na North Carolina ng Estados Unidos. Alamin natin ang pakiramdam ng isang botante doon, ano para sa kanya ang kinatatakutan at inaasahan niya sa darating na eleksyon. Narito ang report ni Bernadette Ragini.
In swing state North Carolina, early voting has begun. With a historic early voter turnout of already 4 million, the state is living up to its reputation as a critical election battleground.
North Carolina, with 16 electoral votes, had in the past 3 presidential elections voted Republican. Donald Trump in 2016 and 2020, and Mitt Romney in 2012. Only in 2008, after 7 presidential elections, did the state vote for a Democratic candidate, Barack Obama. Before that, the last time a Democratic presidential candidate won there was Jimmy Carter in 1976. This time, however, polls show that the fight between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris is very close. Voter Christine Baldrias shares with Net25 not only her fears but her hopes when it comes to the November election. She says change may be frightening, but she is also hopeful that good changes in the new administration will be beneficial not only for her family, but for the entire country.
This upcoming election, I think there are a lot of different fears and hopes that my family and I have. I'm a mom of 2 boys and a wife to a husband, and we definitely have some fears. I think with the new administration, you're just nervous about change in general. I think sometimes you get complacent and you get content with the way things are. Even if you're not necessarily super satisfied or happy with the way things are, you're just fearful of change in general. And so with a new president or a new administration, I think we fear that there could be a lot of change that could come about that doesn't necessarily align with our morals, our standards, our views on things, and maybe doesn't necessarily align with the way we want to raise our children, our family. So there are definitely some fears when it comes to this new election. At the same time, we have a lot of hope for the future. I think my family and I are looking forward to maybe better gas prices, better costs of food, cost of living, even daily things like that. We're hopeful that we can see some change. Again, we're a family of 2 children right now, but there's always room to grow, and hopefully if we have more children, we'd love to see ourselves maybe in a bigger home. So things like lower mortgage rates is something we look forward to. And so with this election coming up, again, we have a lot of fears, but we also are very hopeful. Our family and I are looking onward and forward to hopefully some good change socially and economically. And we're ready and we're excited to see what maybe this new administration could bring for the country.
Bernadette Ragini from Mathay ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Sa kaugnay na balita, alamin natin kay Net25 correspondent Anna Queen ng Las Vegas, Nevada, kung ano naman ang lagay ng early voting doon. Anna.
Ang early voting para sa general elections ay nagsimula noong 19 ng Oktubre dito sa Nevada. Sa 1.9 milyong nakarehistrong botante sa estado, higit sa 1.4 million ang nasa Clark County. Ang early voting dito ay magpapatuloy hanggang 1 ng Nobyembre. Ayon sa isang ulat mula sa tanggapan ng Secretary of State noong Linggo, higit sa 635,000 na mga balota, kabilang ang mail, absentee at personal na pagboto ang natanggap na. Sa ngayon, ito ay 32.2% turnout ng eligible registered voters. Sa kabuuan, higit na maraming nakarehistrong Republicans ang bumoto sa ngayon na umabot na sa 40% kumpara sa 35% lamang na Democrats at 25% na third party. Bawat boto ay mahalaga, ngunit ang resulta sa Nevada bilang isa sa 7 battleground states ay may mahalagang papel sa pagtukoy kung sino ang mananalo. Sa tanging 6 na electoral votes, ang Nevada ay ang may pinakamababang bilang kumpara sa ibang swing states. Batay sa polls, mahigpit ang laban ni na Republican Donald Trump at Democrat Kamala Harris sa battleground states. Kung kaya't ang kaunting boto ng Nevada ay maaaring magbigay daan upang maabot ang 270 na magbibigay ng panalo kay Vice President Harris o kay dating Pangulong Trump. Ang Nevada ay naging pabor sa Democrats sa bawat halalan sa pagkapangulo mula noong 2008. Nakapag-usap kami sa ilang mga botante tungkol sa kanilang mga inaasahan at pag-asa sino man ang umupo sa White House sa Enero 2025.
I am from Colombia. I came legally to this country. I love this country. I have my family here, my husband, my kids. I love this country, what this country has offered me, giving me an opportunity. And I had a business for 10 years almost. To the 2016 to 2020 grew 4 times more. But I lost it last year, thanks to these policies that we currently have. So when I have my business back, I'm trying again with my business, but it has been really difficult. I want a secure border. I want that another people that is not born in this country can come legally like I did it. You have to do the things legally to get blessed.
I just feel when I go out shopping, anything in grocery, is expensive. Anything I can see is expensive more than before. That's I hope the new president is help out and make everybody survive and live like better.
In general, I want a big change. I want we can put gas with less money. I want to be able to afford groceries. Again, not to be checking, we have to stop. No more, because it's going to be $500 again every Sunday. We go Sundays to Costco, and every Sunday is $500. We cannot keep doing this. So now we have to go always okay, we cannot take this, we cannot take this. I didn't have to do that before.
Anna Cui from Mathay Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Sa New York naman ay dumaan ang campaign team ni Republican presidential candidate Donald Trump upang humarap sa mga taga-suporta niya. Ayon sa mga ito, kasama sa pangunahing mga issue na kanilang tinututukan ay ang ekonomiya ng bansa, pagdating ng mga migrante at ang nagaganap na digmaan sa gitnang silangan. Sa Manhattan, narito ang balita mula kay Joanne Soriano.
The polls are officially open in New York for early voting as the nation decides who will be our next president. New York is typically known as a blue state, voting Democratic in past elections for President Biden and for former President Barack Obama. Winning New York for Kamala Harris would garner 28 electoral votes from the state towards the 270 needed to be elected president. Former President Donald Trump took a break from campaigning in battleground states to return to his hometown on Sunday, where he held a rally at Madison Square Garden, the world-famous arena that has hosted major political events throughout history. The rally included speakers such as billionaire Elon Musk and officials including his vice president running mate Senator J.D. Vance and Speaker Mike Johnson. We asked attendees what issues they cared about the most in this election.
I would think immigration, number one, and I suppose economic, number two.
For me, the most important issues are the economy, the border crisis, and wars. I mean, the economy, it was much better under the Trump administration. Right now, we see rampant inflation, money being sent overseas. Brings me to my second point, wars. Under the Trump administration, the United States got in no new wars. We kept ourselves out of wars and got out of wars. And then the border crisis. I mean, people are coming in through the border at unprecedented rates, millions and millions of people. And these are all just three of the major issues. They're really important to me, and I'm sure a lot of other Americans.
For Renata and her family who are visiting New York from Argentina, it was important for them to show their support.
Because we think that Trump is similar to our president, and we think that he's really good. Our president is Milei. Well, he's also very clever very wise with economy and those things, so we came here to support him.
Despite months of campaigning for both candidates, national polls are showing this is going to be a close race. Joanne Soriano, New York, for Mathay Agila International, trusted, connected, on point.
Sa patuloy na tensyon sa pagitan ng Estados Unidos at China, isa sa mga malalaking issue na kanilang pinagtatalunan ang hinggil sa international relations, partikular na sa kalagayan ng Taiwan. Noong October 14, isinagawa ng China ang pang-apat na malawakang military exercises nito sa palibot ng Taiwan na tinawag ng Beijing na Joint Sword 2024B drills. Sa naging military exercises, nagsagawa ang China Coast Guard at People's Liberation Army Navy ng simulation ng isang blockade sa isla bilang pagsasanay laban sa mga posibleng operasyong isasagawa sa Taiwan. Ayon sa Chinese news outlet na Global Times, ang matagumpay na military drills ng Beijing sa Taiwan ay pagpapakita ng kakayahan ng China Coast Guard na magpatupad ng maritime law enforcement sa lugar. Saad pa nito, asahang mas dadalas pa ang ganitong mga aktibidad ng China sa palibot ng Taiwan. Bago pa isagawa ang SWORD 2024B military exercise, ay nauna nang nagsagawa ang China ng inaugurasyon ng naturang drills noon pang buwan ng Mayo. Gihit ng mga opisyalis ng People's Republic of China at ng media nito, tugon nila ito sa pag-iinsulto umano ni Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te. Pinabulaanan naman ito ni De o ni Lai at sinabing hindi totoo ang paratang ng Beijing sa kanya. Pero kung iisipin, bakit nga ba pinalilibutan ng China ang Taiwan imbes na atakihin ito? Ayon sa mga military analysts, matagal nang pinagdedebatihan kung ano ang mas pipiliing hakbang ng China laban sa Taiwan. Marami kasi ang nagsasabing mas pipiliin ng China na magsagawa ng invasion sa Taiwan. Batay sa pagsusuri ni geopolitical analyst Brandon Weichert, karamihan sa mga Western observers ay naniniwalang magsasagawa ang China ng isang surprise attack kontra Taiwan para mapatalsik agad nito ang liderato ng Taipei. Habang marami namang mga analysts ang nagsasabing mas mainam na magsagawa ng blockade ang China sa palibot ng Taiwan. Sa katunayan, napapansin ng ilang mga analysts na mas epektibo ito base sa isinagawang Joint SWORD 2024B drills ng China. Paliwanag kasi ng mga military experts, isang maling hakbang para sa China na umatake sa Taiwan. Anila agad na re-responde ang mga Western allies ng Taiwan kapag nangyari ito. Narito ang ilan sa mga dahilan kung bakit mas pipiliin ng China na magsagawa ng blockade kontra Taiwan. Maituturing na isang flexible strategy ang pagsasagawa ng blockade. Sa pamamagitan ng blockade, pwedeng magdeklara ang China ng restricted zone sa palibot ng Taiwan kung saan ay pwedeng patamaan ng mga gunboats ng China ang mga iligal na barkong papasok rito. Maaari ring magsagawa ang China ng inspeksyon para sa mga barkong papasok sa pantalan ng Taiwan. Mula rito, inaasa ng mga analysts ang posibleng pagsuko ng Taiwan sa Beijing. Sa ganitong paraan, may iwasan ang malaking bilang ng pagkasawi kaysa kung pinili nito ang pag-atake sa Taiwan. Nakikita ng mga analysts na isang gray zone tactic ng China ang pagharang sa mga lagusan ng Taiwan. Anila kayang harangin nito ang mga tulong na ipagkakaloob ng Estados Unidos sa Taiwan. Paliwanag ng mga analysts, sa oras na ipadala ng US ang barko nito para asikasuhin ang blockade ay pwedeng paikutin ng China ang mga kapitan ng barko ng Washington sa isang state of rules engagement limbo ng ilang buwan o taon pa hanggang umalis ito sa lugar. Sa pananaw naman ng Beijing, mahalaga ang pagsasagawa ng blockade kontra Taiwan. Umaasa kasi ang ekonomiya ng Taiwan sa international trade kung saan 98% sa import nito ay energy. Higit pa sa panggigipit sa international trade ng Taiwan, posibleng magsagawa ng kinetic warfare, disinformation drive, cyber attack sa mga infrastruktura ng Taipei at mag-activate ng mga Chinese sleeper agents sa loob ng isla. Hindi man tayo sangkot sa hidwaan ng Beijing at Taipei ay karatig bansa naman natin ng Taiwan. Posible ring lubos na maapektuhan ng Pilipinas sakaling pumutok ang giyera sa pagitan ng Taiwan at China. Kung kaya huwag sanang humantong sa aktual na blockade ang gagawin ng China laban sa Taiwan, may mga Pilipino rin kasi sa isla kung saan ay nagtatrabaho sila para makaipon ng salaping maipadadala sa kanilang mga mahal sa buhay sa Pilipinas. Wala pong pabor sa lumalalang tensyon sa rehiyon, lalo na't may issue rin ang China sa Pilipinas dahil sa pinag-aagawang teritoryo sa West Philippine Sea. Kaya mas mainam na lubos na pag-isipan ng China ang kanilang mga susunod na hakbang dahil nakasalalay sa mga ito ang stabilidad hindi lamang ng Asia kundi ng Asia-Pacific at ng Indo-Pacific. Susunod, 12 ng tao patay sa matinding baha sa Espanya. China, pinalipad na ang Shenzhou 19 astronaut crew patungong Tiangong Space Station. At Colin Farrell tinulungan ng kaibigan matapos ang Dublin Marathon. Iba pang detalye ng mga balita sa pagbabalik po yan ng Mata ng Agila International.
This portion. Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba, sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Ilalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay. This portion is
Patayang nasa 63 katao sa Espanya. Ito ay matapos ang sunod-sunod na pagulan na nagdulot ng matinding pagbaha. Ayon sa mga otoridad ay lubog pa rin sa baha ang mga kalsada, tulay at kabahayan sa lugar. Makikita sa ilang video na tinangay ng rumaragas ang baha ang mga sasakyan na nasa kalsada. Dagdag pa rito ang walang tigil na tawag na natatanggap ng mga radyo at TV station sa mga residente na humihingi ng tulong. Kasunod nito ay nagdeklara ng Red Alert Code ang Spain State Weather Agency sa bahagi ng Valencia at Andalusia. Samantala, gumamit naman ng drones ang emergency services workers para sa paghahanap sa mga taong na-stranded sa kanilang mga tirahan. Sugatan naman ang hindi bababa sa 150 katao matapos sumabog ang isang fireworks display sa India. Ayon sa lokal na ulat, naganap ang insidente sa Kasaragod District sa siyudad ng Kerala. Mula sa bilang na nasaktan, 10 sa mga ito ay isinugod sa pagamutan at nasa kritikal na lagay. Batay sa inisyal na investigasyon ng otoridad, pinaniniwala ang nasunog ang isang shed na pinaglalagyan ng mga paputok. Agad namang rumesponde ang mga bumbero sa lugar para apulahin ang apoy. Inihayag ng China Manned Space Agency na naging matagumpay ang launching ng Long March 2 F-Carrier rocket para dalhin ang Shenzhou-19 crew sa Tiangong Space Station.
神舟19号报告，飞船座舱大气环境正常，航天员感觉良好，完毕。
Pinalipad ang Long March rocket sa Geopolitical Satellite Launch Center kaninang 4:47 ng umaga. Makalipas ng 10 minuto matapos ang launching, ay humiwalay ang Shenzhou-19 spacecraft mula sa rocket at para pumasok sa designated orbit nito. Sa loob ng 6.5 oras ay matagumpay na nakarating ang crew sa space station. Misyon ng Shenzhou-19 crew na magsagawa ng mga experiments sa loob ng Tiangong. Ang Shenzhou-19 ay ang pang-33 flight mission ng China at ang pang-4 na manned mission para sa aplikasyon at development ng space station ng China. Balitang sports, nagtala ng triple-double ang Denver Nuggets star na si Nikola Jokic para matalo ang Brooklyn Nets. Narito si Vin Pascua para sa play-by-play.
Bounce it to Jokic. Jokic singled up. Jokic backing in. Little hook shot. He's good to tie it up at 25, 15, and 14 for Jokic.
Nangangailangan pa ng extra 5 minutes ang Denver Nuggets bago maligpit ang Brooklyn Nets 144-139 sa Barclays Center. Nagtapos si Nikola Jokic ng may 29 points, 18 rebounds at 16 assists. Pangalawang player lang sa kasaysayan ng NBA na naglista ng ganito kalaking numero sa isang laro.
Long pass. Jokic is away. And he scores in a foul.
Nagdagdag naman ng tig 24 points sina Jamal Murray at Aaron Gordon para tulungan ng kanilang kupunan. Nakakuha naman ng 22 points, 5 assists ang pinakabagong Nuggets acquisition na si Russell Westbrook off the bench. Binura ng Nuggets ang 17-point deficit sa second quarter, 124-121. Sa final 33 seconds naman ng regulation, pinagitnaan ng tip-in at hook ni Jokic at split free throws ni Dorian Finney-Smith ang diferensya para ibuhol sa 125 all. Ibinaon ni Cam Thomas ang first basket ng overtime para sa 127-125 lead ng Nets. Ngunit kinobra ng Denver ang sumunod na 8 points ng laro at hindi na binitawan ang lead matapos nun. Tatlong players din ng Brooklyn ang sumabay ng 20 points o higit pa, pero kinapos. Nagsumite ng 28 points si Dennis Schroeder, 26 kay Thomas at 20 kay Cam Johnson. May 16 points, 12 boards naman si Nick Claxton. Absent na naman si Ben Simmons dahil sa kanyang injury. Para sa Balitang Sports, Vin Pascua para sa mata ng Agila International. Trusted, connected, on point.
Nagsalita ngayon ang ilang artists kaugnay sa naging kontrobersyal na biro ng komedyante na si Tony Hinchcliffe sa campaign rally ni Trump. Matatandaan na tinawag ni Hinchcliffe na floating island of garbage ang Puerto Rico na hindi naman ikinatuwa ng ilang mga nakapanood. Kasama na rin dito ang hindi magandang paglalarawan niya sa mga Black Americans at Jews.
It is absolutely wild times. It really, really is. And, you know, there's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay, all right. Okay, we're getting there. Now, again, normally I don't follow the national anthem, everybody. This isn't exactly a perfect comedy setup. There's some people here. All right, very good.
Sinabi naman ni Kamala Harris na suportado niya na ayusin ang problema ng Puerto Rico sa electrical grid maging sa usapin ng pagbibigay ng pondo. Anya, hindi basura ang lugar dahil ito ay lugar ng mga talented at innovative na mga tao. Kasunod dito ay naglabas naman ng isang video sa Instagram ang Puerto Rican rapper na si Bad Bunny. Dagdag pa rito ang mensahe na I remember Kamala Harris na siya namang nirepost ni Jennifer Lopez. Iginiit ni Bunny na hindi dapat kalimutan ang pagpapabaya na ginawa ni Trump noong 2017 nang tamaan ng bagyong Irma at Maria ang bansa. Kabilang sa mga artists na nagbigay ng lubos na pagsuporta kay Kamala ay si Bad Bunny, Jennifer Lopez at Rikki Martin. Naniniwala ang tatlo na ang naging pahayag ni Hinchcliffe sa campaign rally ay patunay na hindi dapat iboto si Trump. Agaw Napansin ang ginawang pagtulong ni Colin Farrell sa kanyang kaibigan na naka-wheelchair sa ginanap na Dublin Marathon. Tinakbo ni Farrell ang huling 4 na kilometro ng marathon habang tulak-tulak ang kanyang kaibigan na si Emma Fogarty. Kasunod nito ay masayang naabot ng 2 finish line kasama na ang iba pang kalahok sa event. Layunin ni Farrell sa pagtakbo na makalikom ng pondo para sa Deborah Charity na tumutulong sa mga tao na kakaibang kondisyon sa balat. Kabilang dito ang kanyang kaibigan na si Fogarty na may incurable genetic condition na epidermolysis bullosa o butterfly skin. Bukod rito ay tumatayo ngayon si Fogarty bilang ambassador ng Deborah na mapapansin na nakabalot ng higit sa 80% ng bandage sa kanyang katawan. Samantala, naglunsad naman ngayong taon ang Colin Farrell Foundation si Farrell para suportahan ang mga pamilya na may anak na may intellectual disabilities. Sa ibang balita ay kinababahala ngayon ng mga turista ang plano na magkaroon ng curfew hours sa pagbisita sa sikat na Hanok Village sa Seoul. Nakatakdang simula ng trial and curfew sa November at opisyal namang ipatupad sa March 2025. Bahagi nito na mabawasan ang bilang ng mga turista sa bahagi ng Bokchon mula 5 p.m. hanggang 10 a.m. Magbabayad naman ang higit sa $72 ang mga turista na hindi susunod sa panuntunan. Bukod rito ay nakilala ang Bokchon Hanok Village sa napakaganda nitong alleyways na para bang nasa panahon ka ng Joseon Dynasty. Samantala, nagugat naman ang curfew hours sa reklamo ng mga residente sa mga turista na nag-iingay at nag-iiwan ng kalat sa lugar. Narito po kami para maghatid ng balita saan mang dako sa mundo. Ako po si Rikki Alagao Flores. Ito pa rin ang Mata ng Agila International. Para naman sa mga balitang nangyari sa iba't ibang panig ng mundo, punta naman tayo kay Alma Angeles para sa Mata ng Agila World News. Take it away, Alma.
Thank you, Nina and Rikki. Good evening, everyone. I'm Alma Angeles for Net25 World News. On tonight's headlines. Super Typhoon Leon has intensified to maximum strength and poses a threat to extreme northern Luzon, according to Pagasa.
Ang pinakamataas na tropical cyclone wind signal na dala nga nitong si Leon ay signal number 4 sa may Batanes. So kapag signal number 4, significant to severe threat to life and property.
As Election Day approaches, the race for the presidency heats up with sharp contrasts emerging between candidates. Former President Donald Trump is attempting to navigate controversy stemming from a recent rally in New York, where racist remarks sparked backlash. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris is rallying support with her largest event yet, drawing over 75,000 attendees in Washington, D.C. And the news starts now. Super Typhoon Leon has intensified to maximum strength and poses a threat to extreme northern Luzon, according to Pagasa. Take a look.
Magandang araw. Narito na nga yung update sa ating minomonitor na si Super Typhoon Leon. Ito ngang si Leon ay patuloy na kumikilos palapit sa may Batanes area. Although ang pinaka-apektado nga nitong si Leon ay ang nasa may northern Luzon, pati na rin sa may silangang bahagi ng Luzon, yung kanyang trough ay posible nga umabot hanggang Visayas area, kaya posible rin hanggang Visayas yung mga kalat-kalat na mga pag-ulan, pagkidlat at pagkulog. Hindi nga rin natin nirule out yung paglandfall nito sa Batanes dahil napakalapit nga nito sa may extreme northern Luzon area. Ang pinakamataas na tropical cyclone wind signal na dala nga nitong si Leon ay signal number 4 sa may Batanes. So kapag signal number 4, significant to severe threat to life and property. Meron din tayong nakataas na signal number 3 sa eastern portion ng Babuyan Islands at ang northeastern portion ng mainland Cagayan. Samantalang signal number 2 naman sa may nalalabing bahagi ng Babuyan Islands, nalalabing bahagi ng mainland Cagayan, northern portion ng Isabela, Apayao, Kalinga, northern at eastern portion ng Abra, eastern portion ng Mountain Province at sa may Ilocos Norte. Samantalang signal number 1 naman sa nalalabing bahagi ng Isabela, sa may Quirino, Nueva Vizcaya, Ifugao, sa may Benguet, sa may nalalabing bahagi nga ng Abra, Ilocos Sur, La Union, Pangasinan, Nueva Ecija, Aurora at ang northeastern portion ng Tarlac.
Meanwhile, Taiwan issued a land warning on Wednesday, today, as it expected Super Typhoon Kongray to make landfall on Thursday along its sparsely populated east coast, bringing heavy rains and strong winds across a swath of the island. Take a look.
Yes, Alma. Here in Taiwan, the authorities in the southeast have suspended some ferry services and urged fishers to return to the shore as Typhoon Kongray approaches. The island's weather service warns the storm is intensifying rapidly. The typhoon, with maximum wind speed now reaching 155 kilometers per hour, could make landfall by late Wednesday or early Thursday, according to the Central Weather Administration. At a news conference, Lim Pong-tung of the Weather Agency cautioned that waves could reach heights of 5 to 6 meters on Wednesday, and heavy rain is expected in Taipei. In the county of Taitung, which appears to be directly in Kongray's path, disaster officials have advised fishers to secure their boats and return to the land. Ferry services to outlying islands have been halted. Local authorities here say the main threat in Taitung will be from the typhoon's strong winds. Meanwhile, in Hualien, a coastal city still reeling from a 7.4 magnitude earthquake in April, supplies have been stocked for the vulnerable and evacuation vehicles are on standby. Taiwan sees these tropical storms from July to October, but scientists warn that the climate change is amplifying their intensity, bringing heavier rains, flash floods, and stronger winds to the island. Reporting from the Miaoli, Taiwan, this is Armelin Xu. Back to you, Alma.
Tragic news out of Spain, where flash floods have claimed the lives of at least 51 people after torrential rain hit parts of the country. The severe flooding turned roads into rivers, swept cars through streets, and even derailed the train, causing widespread damage to homes and buildings. In the hardest-hit areas, authorities had urged people to stay indoors and avoid unnecessary travel. Emergency teams report that all 51 fatalities are in southeastern Spain, particularly in the Valencia region, with children sadly among the victims. In Letour, near the Sierra de Segura, 30 people found themselves stranded when a river burst its banks. Videos posted on social media show scenes of people clinging to trees in fast-moving water, desperately trying to avoid being swept away. Helicopters were used to rescue some from their homes as floodwaters rose. Local TV and radio stations were flooded with calls for help from those stranded or searching for missing family members, where the emergency services stretched thin in this unfolding crisis.
Una casa desaparecida. La que hay en la entrada, aquella desaparecida. Los demás, y dos que no saben si han aparecido todavía o sí.
Había una trompa de agua, que aquí no llovía, pero es de la sierra, viene toda la sierra. Pero venía ya con pinos, ramas, pero todo de golpe, venía muy fuerte.
China's southern island province of Hainan, known as the Hawaii of China, is grappling with severe flooding. Days of torrential rain brought on by Tropical Storm Trami have left many areas submerged. Sanya, a popular tourist destination, has been particularly hard hit. The city recorded its highest rainfall for October in over 20 years. China's eastern coast has been battered by extreme weather this year. Super Typhoon Yagi, and the strongest typhoon to hit Shanghai in decades, have caused widespread damage. Scientists are warning that climate change is fueling more intense weather events. The country's national average precipitation in October was significantly higher than usual. In bizarre incident last week, the Bohai Sea inexplicably surged, flooding coastal cities in northern China. The cause of this unusual event remains a mystery. China's flood prevention infrastructure and emergency response systems are being pushed to the limits, and the country has already suffered billions of dollars in economic losses from natural disasters this year. As Election Day approaches, the race for the presidency heats up with sharp contrasts emerging between candidates. Former President Donald Trump is attempting to navigate controversy stemming from a recent rally in New York, where racist remarks sparked backlash. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris is rallying support with her largest event yet, drawing over 75,000 attendees in Washington, D.C., as both candidates take center stage. The political landscape shifts, highlighting the stakes involved in this pivotal election. Take a look.
With Election Day now less than a week away, former U.S. President Donald Trump on Tuesday sought to distance himself from racist comments made at his New York rally on Sunday, while Vice President Kamala Harris held the biggest rally of her presidential run to date. More than 75,000 people gathered Tuesday evening for Harris's rally in Washington, D.C., according to an estimate by her campaign. She spoke from the same spot where Trump addressed his supporters before they attacked the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021.
Look, we know who Donald Trump is. He is the person who stood at this very spot nearly 4 years ago and sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol to overturn the will of the people in a free and fair election.
Harris went on to contrast her vision of leadership with what she described as Trump's.
On day one, if elected, Donald Trump would walk into that office with an enemies list. When elected, I will walk in with a to-do list, full of priorities of what I will get done for the American people.
Meanwhile, Trump on Tuesday appeared keen to move on from the controversy surrounding his New York City rally on Sunday.
There's literally a floating island of garbage.
Where a comedian called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage and peddled other racist tropes about Latinos and other minority groups. In Florida earlier in the day, Trump praised that event and said he was honored to be involved.
It was like a love fest, an absolute love fest.
The Trump campaign has said the joke did not reflect its views, though the candidate himself has not directly commented on the remarks. Later on Tuesday, Trump flew to Pennsylvania, the biggest prize among the 7 battleground states that will decide the outcome of the November 5th election. Puerto Ricans are the largest Hispanic group in the state, according to data from the U.S. Census Bureau. At a roundtable in Drexel Hill, Trump touted his record.
I think no president's done more for Puerto Rico than I have.
Trump repeated the line later on at a rally in the heavily Hispanic city of Allentown.
Nobody loves our Latino community and our Puerto Rican community more than I do. Nobody. You know, it's interesting because I've done more for Puerto Rico than any president by far.
Harris has led Trump in every Reuters Ipsos poll since she entered the race in July, but her advantage has steadily shrunk since late September. As the candidates near the finish line, a Reuters Ipsos poll on Tuesday showed that Harris's lead has eroded to just 44 to 43% among registered voters.
Now in swing state Georgia, like in other election battlegrounds, early voting turnout is breaking records. Let's find out more from Net25's Philip Toledo in Atlanta, Georgia. Philip.
The general election is still a few days away, but here in Georgia, early voters are smashing records. According to the Elections Division of the Georgia Secretary of State, as of Monday, 2.9 million ballots have been cast since early voting began on October 15. That is 40% of just over 7 million active voters, breaking the previous record set in 2020, when then President Trump narrowly lost the state to Joe Biden. By race or ethnicity, whites make up the majority of active voters across the state. Slightly more females are active voters than males, and the 18 to 24-year-old demographic towers over other age groups in the makeup of active voters in the state. With 16 electors up for grabs, Georgia residents have seen multiple visits by both Harris and Trump in just the past few weeks alone, trying to capture those critical votes. And many are taking the right to vote seriously with early voting.
I think this is an existential election. It's going to have implications for my children and my 3 grandsons and more to come. So it's critically important that everyone at least voices their vote.
Well, I just started law school actually down in Florida, so I really just wanted to get it out while I was home and get it done. Because being so young, and especially with the recent economic crisis we've had, I really just want to make sure my vote counts.
A frequent target of former President Trump's claims regarding election fraud in 2020, Georgia boasts some of the strictest voting regulations in the country. ID is required for all in-person and absentee ballots. Those without a state-issued ID are given instructions from the Election Division website of what they can do in order to be able to vote. This record-breaking early voting turnout can be a result of the numerous get-out-the-vote campaigns run by both parties as well as nonpartisan efforts. In any case, as we near Election Day, all eyes will remain on this battleground state of Georgia. Philip Toledo for Net 25 World News.
Philip Toledo joins us now. Philip, how would you describe the atmosphere at the polling stations?
Yes, well, the Election Division website reports that most polling places have a wait of less than 30 minutes, which matches up with most of the other people that I've talked to just anecdotally. In my own experience, going to vote early last week, it literally took me about 8 minutes to vote from the time that I got in line, showed and scanned my ID, to the time that I cast my ballot. But the one thing that was really surprising to me was just how friendly, how accommodating all of the poll and election workers were. They were so friendly, even though it was 7 a.m. in the morning. But you could tell that they were just really eager to see democracy at work. Back to you.
Thank you, Philip, and we'll be monitoring this closely. In other news tonight, North Korea has moved into place a launcher ready for an intercontinental ballistic missile, or ICBM, and may decide to set it off around the time of the U.S. presidential election. That is according to South Korean lawmakers today, citing military intelligence.
North Korea appears to be preparing to relaunch a reconnaissance satellite, utilizing advanced component imports and technological collaboration with Russia, following its failed attempt this past May. Although the exact movements are not yet confirmed, there are reports of close monitoring by the spy agency, with the possibility of North Korea conducting its 7th nuclear test after the US presidential election.
North Korea has performed a series of ICBM test launches at a sharply steep trajectory to let the projectiles drop within much shorter distances relative to the designed range, partly for safety and to avoid the political fallout of sending a missile far into the Pacific. But a launch with a flatter standard trajectory is considered essential for ICBM development to ensure the warhead is capable of making a re-entry into the atmosphere while maintaining control to hit an intended target. A significant development out of the war in Europe, North Korean boots are now on Russian soil. The Pentagon and NATO have confirmed what many experts now have been increasingly concerned about. Kim Jong-un now has approximately 10,000 soldiers to help Russia's military campaign. And this military cooperation marks the first time North Korea has sent significant number of soldiers to fight in a foreign war. Dr. Victor Cha from the Center for Strategic and International Studies shares his insights on this deployment.
Anything that one country can do for another, that's a bigger symbol of allegiance and support than sending troops in wartime. North Korea has sent a lot of ammunition to Russia, but sending troops is, I think, at a whole different level. Certainly I think they're getting money for it in the sense that the Russians are paying for some of these forces, and that may matter in some respect. But I think for Kim, it's a bigger strategic move. It's not just transactional. He's trying to lock the Russians in terms of their security commitment to North Korea, because he's providing troops and ammunition for Russian needs. So this really is a renewal of sort of the Cold War security treaty, but with a twist, being that now it's North Korea that's helping Russia rather than historically the Soviet Union helping North Korea. I think they're certainly getting improvement and training for their conventional capabilities. These troops are well trained, but they've never been in war before, and so this is an opportunity for them to get training. But there's also probably a lot of military equipment that's being exchanged at the conventional level to help modernize North Korea's conventional forces. And then finally, I think the bigger concern, I don't know, it's nothing we can confirm at this moment, is that there is some transactional aspect to this relationship, which is that Kim is not stupid. He knows Putin needs both the ammunition and the troops, so why not exact a higher price for that, which is to try to ask for higher-end military technology to help him break through some of the technological ceilings that he's facing in terms of modernizing his WMD program and his ballistic missiles. And one element of that is ICBM technology, and the other element of it is North Korea's desire to build a sea-based leg of the triad in terms of their nuclear capabilities. And Kim has made very clear that he wants to have nuclear submarines. I'm not saying it's happening right now, but it's something to be concerned about.
The deployment marks a dramatic shift for North Korea's military, which has traditionally focused solely on defending Korean Peninsula. But what kind of troops are these, and how might Russia use them? Mark Kanshan, a senior advisor at CSIS, offers insight.
They've chosen, there are reports that they come from what's called the Storm Corps, which is a special operations group. And typically when countries send forces overseas, they are specially picked, they're specially trained, they're specially equipped, so that when they're doing a real world operation, they're fully prepared. I would expect that that's what the North Koreans have done. One other thing I would add is that there are, again, reports that the North Koreans are wearing Russian uniforms and have been issued Russian gear. If that's the case, then you may see the Russians claiming these are volunteers, and communists have done that in the past. The Chinese, of course, in Korea and the Korean War were, technically volunteers. And I suspect that is to get around international laws, about making North Korea an actual combatant in the conflict. But if they did that, then you could imagine them on the front lines, but not as individual replacements. Generally, countries in these kind of situations want to keep all the forces together so that they, are operating under their own officers, and there's also a degree of national pride involved. Here you also have an immense language problem, which is if you took a bunch of North Koreans and put them in a Russian unit, how would they operate? So I would expect North Korean battalions maybe.
Russia's acceptance of these troops comes as it faces severe military personnel shortages.
This would be a part of that effort to try to fill the ranks. They've lost something like 600,000 casualties since the beginning of the war. They're trying to expand their own armed forces. They're desperate for manpower.
Meanwhile, China's response to this development has been notably muted. Georgetown University's Dennis Wilder explains Beijing's delicate position.
In fact, the radio silence in Beijing on this subject is staggering. For Xi Jinping, he has been performing a high wire act ever since the war began. On the one hand, I'm sure he didn't want a war in Ukraine. On the other hand, Putin is now in war. He cannot see Putin fail. He and Putin, to a certain degree, are soulmates on the subject of American aggression from their point of view. You have NATO, and then you have mini NATO in Asia from the Chinese point of view. And so for him, he's got to support anything that supports Putin. After all, clandestinely, he's been supplying the semiconductors, the sophisticated machine tools, really rebuilding the war machine for Putin. On the other hand, he pretends to be neutral. He, wants to keep the relationships with Europe going strongly. He doesn't want the U.S. too angry at him. They have great economic reasons for that.
Wilder notes that this situation further complicates China's already complex relationship with North Korea.
North Korea, from the Chinese point of view, is their chronic Excedrin headache. They have not, ever since Kim killed his uncle, Chiang Suk-taek, in 2013, but Chiang was the only guy they felt they could talk to, and he started some economic reforms. And Kim may have killed him in part because he was close to the Chinese.
Yeah.
And so the Chinese relationship with the North, really going back to the Korean War, has always been a very tenuous one, with neither side trusting the other side. So for them, almost like for us in your book, The Impossible State, it's somewhat similar. What do you do with this country? You need it as a buffer. You keep it on IV drip of a little bit of economic assistance. It doesn't hurt to have North Korea that's a little bit worrisome to the United States. But on the other hand, this guy is so unpredictable and could really mess up China's whole strategic position in East Asia. It is, I think, a very real conundrum for Beijing.
As North Korea deepens its military cooperation with Russia, these latest developments add another layer of complexity to an already delicate balance of power in East Asia. Rescue workers in Argentina are combing through the debris looking for survivors from a 10-story hotel that collapsed Tuesday. The building had been under renovation when it tumbled down in the city of Villa Gesell, about 370 kilometers from the capital of Buenos Aires. Danica Lee has that story.
Firefighters are being aided by sniffer dogs as they search for survivors.
Honestly, it was shocking to see how the building collapsed. It transformed into a cloud of dust and we couldn't see anything. We heard like an earthquake, as some neighbors said. This was terrible. It's like a horror movie we are living through.
There was a closed-down construction area. An elevator shaft was being worked on, and it remains intact here at the front of the building. We think there has been irregular work at the rear side where the tower was.
So far, rescuers have managed to pull an 80-year-old woman from the rubble. They also recovered the body of an elderly man. It's believed between 7 and 9 people who had been working on restoring the hotel are still trapped beneath the debris. The cause of the collapse has not been determined. The mayor of Villa Gesell has expressed concerns that irregular construction work had been carried out in the building. The city says work was being done on the hotel without municipal permits. The city had halted work at the site in August. Officials say 4 people linked to the construction have been arrested. Danica Lee for Net 25 World News.
And the news continues here on Net 25 World News. We'll be right back.
Sa kasulukuyang henerasyon, marami na ang nag-viral. Dahil po yan sa kanilang ginagawang pagtulong sa kapwa. Pero mas marami ang tumutulong kahit walang nakakakita. Kaya naman kung ikaw ay may kilala na grupo o individual na may natatanging pagresponde sa lipunan at maging sa kalikasan, mag-text lamang sa 0915-415-1035 o mag-email sa responde@net25.com at magpadala ng mensahe sa ating Facebook page at Net25TV. Baka kayo na ang susunod nating Certified Key Responder.
Let's net together sa Net25. Sa Net25.
Finally, in our news, imagine visiting a quaint traditional village only to find that your stroll could soon come with a curfew. That is the reality unfolding in one of South Korea's most popular tourist spots. Starting next month, visitors may face new rules designed to protect the peace of a community that's feeling the strain of too many footsteps. Take a look.
It's a top destination for visitors to South Korea, luring travelers with its traditional houses. But some in Seoul's Bukchon Hanok village say they are victims of over-tourism, and now officials are taking action. In November, the area will start a trial curfew to limit the impact of visitors. The village was popularized by a TV show a decade ago and is now facing issues like noise, littering, and invasions of privacy. Last year alone, the village attracted around 6 million visitors, while its resident population is only about 6,000. Starting in November, tourists will have restricted access to certain areas from 5 p.m. to 10 a.m., with violators facing fines of up to 100,000 Korean won or about $72. The curfew will then officially launch in March 2025. Chung Moon-hun is the mayor of Jongno district, where the village is located. He says the local government will work with residents ahead of the official launch.
We're trying to make tourists come in a balanced way and not cause major inconvenience to the residents. This is the first time we're implementing such a policy in South Korea, so we'll work closely with residents to make adjustments if necessary.
While the local government hopes to protect residents' rights and daily lives, not all residents are convinced it's the right idea. One resident of the capital city says the whole idea is un-Korean.
South Korea is a country with freedom of movement, so controlling that with fines is an excessive measure. It would be better to refine the tourist culture through guidance.
Tourists, meanwhile, are divided over the curfew, with some resenting the idea of being fined for walking down a public street, while others acknowledge the importance of residents' quality of life.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, where if tourists are being rude and disrespectful to the residents living here, that shouldn't be allowed. And yeah, there should be protections in place so their peace and sanity is preserved.
There are also concerns about enforcement, including how to distinguish tourists from residents, how to ensure foreigners pay fines, and how to address the language barrier.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. has extended warm birthday greetings to Iglesia Ni Cristo Executive Minister Brother Eduardo V. Manalo, celebrating his dedication and leadership. As Brother Eduardo Manalo marks his 69th birthday on October 31st, President Marcos expressed heartfelt gratitude for his guidance within the INC. In his message, Marcos shared, "On this day, I would like to convey our gratitude and admiration for your dedication to leadership and guidance in the Iglesia Ni Cristo," Marcos said in a statement. He wished him strength and wisdom, saying, "May you continue to be blessed with strength and wisdom to be used in your continued service and leadership within the Church." From the Marcos family, he added, "We pray for the continued growth of your work and good aspirations for the country and the whole world." And with that, we end tonight's broadcast. For everyone here on Net 25, I'm Alma Angeles. Thank you for joining us. Good night.